Hey there, this is Dr. Elisa Song, holistic mama doc, holistic pediatrician, and board certified pediatrician, functional medicine expert. I hope you're here. I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing my screen, so I don't know if I'm on. So I'm so glad that you're here with me today, joining me for my Facebook Live all about the flu, everything you need to know about the flu to separate fact from fear, separate the hysteria from really what the truth is. So if you're here, give me a wave, give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, tell me you're here. I'd love to hear where you're from, how many kids you have, any comments or questions that you have about the flu, and I'll try to get to all of them as we get through this. So I'm sure that, like me, you guys have been reading all about the flu every single day in the news. Another really frightening article about how many deaths there have been, how many cases there are, and now you're wondering, should I really be afraid? Right? You know, how many of you give me a hands up, or a thumbs up, or a sad face, or an angry face if you are afraid of the flu? Right? Because I know when I'm reading this and, looking at the media, looking at my Facebook feed or listening to the radio, I get afraid, and I have the knowledge, and I am a pediatrician, right? So that's why I'm here today. I want to tell you what the facts are, right? I want to give you the confidence and the security to get through the flu season without fear, and really help your kids naturally to beat the flu. So here's what I want to do, a couple of things. Before you before you actually get going any further, I have a special gift for you. I have a guide to the natural remedies to beat the flu. In fact, I'm going to put it right here in the first comment section. I am going to pin that comment to the very top. So be sure to download that, because I'm going to look at that as a reference later on. Okay, so that's going to be for you guys to have. Here we go. I'm going to pin this right now. Okay, and then before we get started, let's do this. If you could do me a favor, stop and share this with any of your friends, any of your colleagues, any parents you know, any grandparents you know, who really need to know more about the flu, who have questions, and who really want to get going with understanding what they can do to get through this flu season without the fear. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I have my phone right here. I'm going to stop and share this with my friends on my personal page, and I'm going to stop and share this with my Thriving Child Community private Facebook group, because I want all of those mamas and papas and grandparents and practitioners to hear everything that's going on. Okay, so, and then I'm going to share this also to, let's see right here, I'm going to share this to my colleagues. Here we go. So okay, shared. So give me a thumbs up, give me a heart if you shared it, spread the word. I want everyone to hear this. So let's get going, okay? My goal today, as I said before, if you're just joining me today, I am holistic mama doc. I'm a holistic pediatrician, pediatric functional medicine expert. I want to make sure that you guys know that I am a board certified pediatrician. If you haven't followed my work, what I mean by holistic pediatrician is that I integrate not just conventional pediatrics, but also diet and lifestyle, functional medicine, herbal medicine, essential oils, and homeopathy into the practice, because I think that there's so much to offer our children if we really take this integrative approach. It doesn't have to be either or. It really should be a comprehensive, holistic approach to help our kids thrive, body, mind, and spirit, whatever that takes, right? And so today, what I want to do is really tell you more about what I know and the evidence behind the flu treatment options, both conventional and quote alternative. I would say integrative, because I don't really consider them alternative. Okay. So again, tell me one more time. I see a lot of you guys tell me that you are afraid of the flu, right? So again, if you're just joining me, give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, give me a sad face, give me an angry face. If you feel like there's so much hysteria in the news these days about the flu, and you want to know, Do I really need to be afraid? Okay, so here we go. Azadeh, I love seeing you here. Thank you for joining me. You've been on my previous Facebook group, so I'm so glad you're here today. Emily, you're here today. I see Eloisa and Stephen and Devin, so really great. Cece's here today. Kathy, Destiny, so great. Okay, Kayla, thumbs up. I love that. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, my 6-year-old is afraid of the flu. If you get my newsletter, my last newsletter announcing this Facebook Live was that, well, my son had the flu, right? Bodhi had the flu over Christmas break. Well, I took him to the office and I actually swabbed his nose to test him. I have that luxury as a pediatrician, right? Because I just wanted to know, could this be the flu since, we've been on a plane coming back from Colorado, of course, so many exposures. And sure enough, he had influenza A. Now, I didn't tell him. I just said, okay, well, you're sick. Let's give you some homeopathic medicines. Let's get you some vitamin D, vitamin C, lots of rest, lots of soup and bone broth. And he got better. In like 2 days, he was better. No complications. And so he told me today, he said, my friend is out with the flu. And he said, is it true that if you have the flu, you have to go to the hospital, right? That you get really sick? Because he was really worried about his friend, his little buddy in first grade. And I looked at him, I said, no, that's absolutely not true. I mean, you had the flu. And he looked at me in shock. He kind of panicked and he was like, oh my gosh, I had the flu. And you could tell he was thinking, am I really sick? Am I going to have to go to the hospital? Am I going to die? Right? And I said, you know what? No, look at you. You got over it in 2 days. Yes, some people get really sick. Yes, some people have complications. But if we have these tools to boost our kids' immune systems, boost our families' immune systems, we don't have to get that sick. And if we do get sick, we can actually have tools to get over it faster. Okay? So now, with this flu hysteria, what we're finding is that there is a lot of pressure in the media to get the flu vaccine, even though it's not very effective this year, less than 10% effective, right? Tara from Canada, I love having you here. What I'm so honored about is being able to share this information with parents and practitioners and grandparents and aunts and uncles, all over the world. We've been able to reach, families in the Philippines and Kazakhstan and Australia. So I'm so honored to be able to bring this to you. So thank you guys for letting me be a part of your lives and letting me be a part of your holistic pediatric journey. So, okay, I have a couple of questions for you. So now after reading, the news, listening to the radio, many of us, who are listening today probably thought, well, I'm not going to get the flu shot. But how many of you are seriously thinking of getting the flu shot? Raise your hands, right? Because you heard, well, maybe I should now. It's not too late, even though it's less than 10% effective, right? And how many of you, give me a thumbs up, give me a sad face, give me an angry face. How many of you guys are seriously thinking of trying to figure out how to stockpile Tamiflu, even though it's nowhere to be found, right? So I know, some of my friends and some of the families in the practice, they're calling with questions every day. Should I get the flu shot now? Do I need Tamiflu? So I want to talk with you today about that. Let's do this. Let's separate fact from fear and give you some of the tools to help get your kids over the flu season naturally. Okay, so the first fact is, well, we know the flu, it can be serious. I do not, absolutely not want to minimize the complications that can arise when you have the flu. There are people who have died from the flu. People can get very sick from the flu, okay? But let's take a look at some of the facts. Some of the facts now, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, has a weekly influenza surveillance site. And what they do is track the flu week by week. And so they lag a little bit behind, but I've been able to get some of the data recently. And I take a look at this all the time. At least once or twice a week, right? And so what the CDC is showing is that we probably had our peak in the United States of the flu, and I'm guessing this is the same for Canada, that it probably peaked the last week of December, which actually is exactly when Bodhi got the flu, right? It was that last week when we were traveling back from Colorado. And so it looks as though the past 2 weeks, so the first 2 weeks of January, we've seen a steady decline over the past 2 weeks in flu rates. That's actual influenza rates. So Have we already passed the peak and are we going down? It's hard to say, but let's keep our fingers crossed, right? It looks like things are getting better and better. I mean, when I first came back to the office after winter break, it was crazy. I was getting calls and seeing kids left and right, who had flu symptoms. And this week, knock on wood, things have been much better, right? So hopefully we'll have some end to that hysteria, right? Second thing to know about the flu, while many people will get sick from the flu, very few will get very sick. This is still not a likely concern for most healthy people. And in fact, studies have shown that less than half of those who become infected with the influenza virus actually even develop any flu-like symptoms, right? A good many won't have any symptoms. In fact, I've had families come in where one person has had the flu. And so I've just checked everyone, tested everyone there. And sure enough, of course, you live in the same household, kind of guaranteed that, most of the people in the household are going to get the flu. And so there have been folks who I've swabbed, they've tested positive for influenza A or influenza B and not had any symptoms and been fine, right? And then many people will actually have mild symptoms. So it is not necessarily something to be really, really panicked about. Now, we do know that there are certain populations that have a higher risk for more serious complications from the flu. And so for these populations, yeah, we want to be a little bit more careful. We want to be a little bit more cautious. So who are these populations? So these are infants, right? Kids less than 2 years of age and adults who are over 65. So the very young and the very elderly, we want to take precautions. But I'm going to tell you, it doesn't necessarily mean that that the flu shot is always the best thing for them. And I'm going to share some information with you about Tamiflu. So definitely, hang tight. So who else is a higher risk? It's going to be anyone who has chronic health concerns like asthma, heart disease, neurodevelopmental disorders, diabetes, immunosuppression, whether due to disease or medications, right? So, or morbid obesity. So if you have any of these associated conditions, then yes, you want to just be a little bit more cautious and be more on top of your symptoms and seek medical attention, sooner rather than later. Okay. Now, the third thing to know about the flu is we throw the word flu around like crazy, right? When people say I have the flu or so-and-so had the flu, it doesn't always mean that they have influenza, right? Influenza virus causes the flu. That's the flu, the actual flu. But many of us, when we say, oh, I have the flu, it just means that they have flu-like symptoms. So just know the flu, in the wintertime is one of the viruses that we know causes, these flu-like symptoms and syndromes, but there are many other influenza-like viruses and cold viruses that can cause symptoms. So even if you decide to get the flu shot, even if you decided maybe to, kind of take Tamiflu preventatively, there are still so many other viruses and germs we have to worry about and think about. And that's why it's so important to, take a look at how we can strengthen our kids' immune systems, strengthen our families' immune systems, help them stay healthy and prevent a flu in the first place, and then use whatever natural medicines and tools and integrative approaches we can to keep them healthy and prevent complications when they have the flu. So I'm seeing some questions here. Great. Kayleen writes, she's already used some advice for boosting the immune system and taking homeopathic remedies at the first sign, and did it successfully with her daughter with type 1 diabetes. I love hearing that, right? It's not that if you have any chronic health concerns that you can't use these natural medicines, but we just want to make sure that we do it wisely and have some guidance and knowledge, right? That's what I want to do. As a holistic pediatrician, as a board certified pediatrician, I want to make sure that you have the knowledge and the confidence. I want to empower you to realize that we don't have to be afraid of our body. We don't have to be afraid of illness. What we want to do is make sure that we strengthen our bodies, strengthen our immune systems so that we can do what our body is naturally trying to do, which is to fight infections, right? And to stay healthy. Gina writes, just learned about elderberry syrup. I'm going to talk about elderberry syrup in just a little bit, but elderberry syrup absolutely helps with the flu and boosting the immune system. And We'll talk about acupuncture. Elizabeth just wrote, my daughter gets acupuncture. I love acupuncture. I do practice acupuncture in the office. And one of the things that I do is teach parents how to use acupressure so they can use those wonderful and therapeutic acupuncture points on their kids when their kids are sick. Okay, so let's talk about the flu shot. Okay, who wants to know any facts about the flu shot? I know I see many of you on this list have not gotten the flu shot and have no intention of getting the flu shot, but I have some families who didn't get the flu shot, had no intention of getting the flu shot, and now they're thinking about it, right? Why? Because we're hearing in the media that it's not too late. Do it now, right? That sense of urgency. Do it before it's too late. Well, I think that's doing a disservice to our families. It's doing a disservice to our parents. And one thing that I really am hoping that you come away from this Facebook Live is to minimize the fear. I mean, nobody likes to get sick. I can't stand being sick. I hate seeing my kids sick. I mean, it's devastating, right? To have your child just feeling miserable in front of you. But, you know, if we have the tools to help them, we can feel more empowered and not feel helpless. That's one thing, right? And we can make better decisions for them. And I want to minimize the fear, because that fear and that stress, emotional stress and fear is as much of an inflammatory trigger and an immune suppressant as pretty much anything you can think of, right? So let's just, be a little more zen about this, be a little more knowledgeable, be a little bit more rational about this. Okay, so if you're with me and still hanging tight, give me a thumbs up. If you're just joining me and we're just getting started on the kind of the heart of the topic about the flu and what you need to know. So be sure, if you haven't shared it with your friends, share it with your friends, share it with your family members, anyone who needs to know about the flu or has questions about the flu. Just a reminder, I did pin a comment on the very top of the Facebook Live. The first comment is a download. It's my free guide to natural remedies to beating the flu. So whenever you get a chance, go ahead and download that. We're going to go over it in a little bit, okay? So let's talk about the flu shot. This is just simple flu basics that I want you to have. And the reason why I want you to have this is because even if, let's say, you're a mama who has decided not to get the flu shot for herself or for her kids, but you may be feeling pressured, right? You may be feeling pressured by grandma or by friends or whomever, right? Your partner to get the flu shot. And you want to have some more data, right? Some more evidence to really show, well, maybe we want to think a little bit more broadly and not just as a knee-jerk think, well, I need to get the flu shot this year. So let's talk about how the flu shot is made. Okay, so many of you guys know how the flu shot is made, but what happens is the year before every flu season, scientists get together and try to predict the 3 or 4 strains of the influenza virus that are going to be most prevalent in the following flu year. So for instance, the 2017-2018 flu vaccine that we have right now, researchers really tried to guess last winter, the winter 2016-2017, what flu strains were going to be circulating. So what does that mean, right? The most important question then is, do the flu viruses that are actually in the vaccine actually match the flu viruses that are circulating this year? And guess what? Some years they have it right, some years they have it wrong. I remember a few years ago, they had 0 strains that matched. And so the 4-strain influenza vaccine typically carries 2 influenza type A strains and 2 influenza type B strains. Now, the most prevalent strain, like 90% of all the flu going around right now, and this is the flu that you're reading about in the news. This is the flu that was circulating in Australia. And Australia, it's your summer now. I'm so glad that you are out of your flu season, because I know it was a rough flu season for you guys over in Australia and New Zealand. But that flu, the influenza type A subtype H3N2. Okay, that's what we're hearing about in the news. That's 90% of the strains circulating. That's the one that everyone's really kind of afraid of because of the potential complications. And guess what? The flu vaccine doesn't cover it, right? 90% of the flu circulating is not going to you're not going to get protected from in the vaccine. Okay, so this year's vaccine, not a good match. Now, I will say the other influenza type A and the other influenza, one of the influenza type Bs, one of the subtypes, it is in the vaccine, right? So that is there. But the influenza B typically just causes mild symptoms. Now, another fact to know about the flu vaccine is that even when the flu strains match perfectly, let's say this year's flu shot actually did have the same 4 strains that were circulating. Well, even if it's 100% a good match, it is not 100% effective, right? And why is that? It's because the way that the flu viruses for the strains are grown in egg, it changes the structure of the virus so that by the time it's in the vaccine, it's not as effective. It doesn't provide as good an immune response for our bodies. So that's why at best, even when there's 100% match in the vaccine to the circulating strains, the flu vaccine is maybe at most 40 to 60% effective. Well, then you have this year where the match is really not very good. And that's why we have these estimates that it's probably less than 10% effective. Okay, the next fact to know is that the flu vaccine, well, I hate to say this, and you know this, but there's absolutely no intervention, whether it's, medical or, alternative. There's no medication, there's no pharmaceutical that's going to be 100% effective or 100% safe. And this is where we need to do our due diligence and have informed decision-making. And, this could be a whole other discussion on what true informed consent is for vaccines. But I do believe that parents should have this informed decision-making power, to decide which vaccines they will or will not have for their children. And so the flu vaccine we know is associated with various adverse reactions. Now, it can hurt. Is that one I'm worried about? No. I mean, if your arm hurts for a little bit and it's sore, that's not what I consider a serious adverse vaccine reaction. But we do know that the flu vaccine is associated with autoimmune phenomena, autoimmune reactions. Now that absolutely is a serious adverse reaction that I do not want any child or any adult to have. In particular, the flu vaccine we know is correlated and linked with an autoimmune illness called Guillain-Barré syndrome. Oh, hey, I see Steve Martell joined. Steve is a fellow resident, awesome pediatrician from UCSF. So glad to see you here. And let's see who else is here. Lisa Coyle-Klaus, I love seeing you on the page and and hearing from you. So I'm really glad you guys are all joining me. So anyhow, the flu vaccine, it is associated with autoimmune phenomena. I mean, the risk, albeit, is low. However, there is a real risk, right? So this is something that we need to be aware of and understand for our kids. We do know there is a phenomenon called pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome, PANS, which I speak a lot about. If you are a mom or a dad with a child with PANS or PANIS, you know how devastating this neuropsychiatric illness can be. And the flu vaccine can be associated with that. And so, and that is an autoinflammatory condition. And so just to be aware of some of the potential risks. And then the other thing to know that I really want parents to understand is the flu vaccine, while if it is a good match, it may protect against some of the flu strains that are circulating, it's not going to do anything for all of the other non-influenza viruses that are circulating and causing cold and flu-like illnesses. So we still need to know how to boost our children's immune systems. We still need to know how to keep them healthy and how to get them better faster when they do have the cold or the flu. Because frankly, when we have a cold or a flu in conventional pediatrics, there's really not a whole lot we can do. The FDA has just, really put kind of a clamp down on giving any codeine cough suppressants to children because of the risk of respiratory depression, slowing their breathing down, and the risk for later addiction. Sudafed is out. Right? Tylenol and ibuprofen may help kids feel a little bit better, but it's not going to help them get over their illness faster. And in fact, Tylenol or acetaminophen has been shown to prolong the duration of certain viral illnesses when we're used to reduce the fever, right? So the fever is our body's natural response to infection. It's not anything to fight. It's something to support. And do I ever use ibuprofen in my children? Yes, but I use ibuprofen to reduce the fever when my child is so uncomfortable that they're not sleeping well, because sleep trumps all, right? Sleep heals, or if they're really not wanting to drink because dehydration will make the fever worse, or if they're just absolutely miserable. So there's a time and a place for everything. But again, you know, the flu vaccine is not going to help against these non-flu viruses circulating. Now, the last thing that I want to point out, Lori waves hi, hey, give me, you know, so the last thing I want to point out is that, you know, with the flu vaccine, I know in the papers, and in fact, I just saw this in one of the San Diego articles, one of the papers going on right, well, many of the papers and articles are saying, get the flu shot anyway, because it might help make the flu more mild. Now, if someone could please give me a reference for that, an actual research paper, an article showing me, proving to me that getting the flu vaccine actually, even if the strain doesn't match, will make your flu more mild. Like if you get the H3N2, you know, flu virus right now, if it's not in the vaccine, I don't know how it could make your flu symptoms more mild. So I would love that. If you have a paper, please share it with me, because I love learning. And if I have to eat my words, I will. But right now, I don't think that's a valid argument either. So bottom line with the flu vaccine, this year, less than 10% effective. It's not going to be effective against the most common strain that's circulating, that is the strain that you're reading about in the news that can have more severe complications. It's not going to protect against all the other non-influenza viruses that are circulating. And there are, for some, going to be some potentially serious side effects, albeit rare. So, you know, I truly, as I said before, I truly believe that parents have the right to make an informed decision about vaccines for their child, whatever that is. And I will support my parents and families in whatever decision they make, but I don't want them to make that decision out of fear. I want them to make that decision out of information and rational thought and with evidence. Okay, so everyone with me, if you're still with me, I know I'm going through a lot, but if you're still with me, give me a thumbs up, because I want to make sure that you're still here. And you know, if you have any questions, let me know. So next thing, Tamiflu. My husband actually, you know, when we were flying home from Colorado, you know, he was looking up Tamiflu, and, you know, of course, there's a Tamiflu shortage everywhere. And he was trying to figure out, where can we get our hands on Tamiflu? And I looked at him and I said, why are you doing that? Right? And he said, well, I think we should stockpile it. So I thought to myself, wow, you know, if my husband is thinking this, I'm going to bet that there are many people out there who are thinking the same thing. Good. I'm so glad you guys are with me still. I'm so glad that I'm providing some information for you guys that hopefully is valuable. So the Tamiflu, let's look at this, because I actually did not know a lot of this research about Tamiflu until I started looking into it. Now, and I'm a pediatrician, right? I'm a physician, a medical doctor, and I used to write Tamiflu prescriptions. I will say, after looking at the data, and now as an integrative holistic pediatrician, I really, really don't think that I could ever have it in me to prescribe the Tamiflu, and I'll tell you why. That's a really big statement, and I just want to let you know some of the facts, right? Because I don't want to share information that doesn't have evidence behind it. So I'm really going to try to make this as evidence-based as possible, knowing that with evidence, right? When we look at the definition of evidence-based medicine, evidence-based medicine is being thrown around. Kathy, I'm so glad you're finding it helpful. And I see Cindy's here today. Say hi to everyone. With evidence-based medicine, right? You know, that term is thrown around by everyone. Where's the evidence? We only practice evidence-based medicine. Well, when you look at the definition of evidence-based medicine, it not only takes into account the literature, but it also needs to take into account your clinical experience. And that is where the art and the science of medicine and healing have to join together. And that is true evidence-based medicine. So let me tell you the evidence. So Abby wrote, our doc told us about the side effects of the Tamiflu, and I couldn't believe it. Well, yes, and I hope that if you or your family members are prescribed Tamiflu, or your Tamiflu is prescribed for your children, that your doctor does provide you with some information and with some informed consent. So Jan Keeling writes, hi, there's a question from the Southern Hemisphere. Hey, I'm going to be in Australia in April, so I'll be down your neck of the woods. So if this year's Northern Hemisphere vaccine isn't working, do we in the South get a new one for our flu season, which is your winter, I know, is June through September, or will they carry on using a slightly non-effective vaccine for us too? Well, I would say this vaccine is not very effective. So it's not only a slightly non-effective, it's a very non-effective vaccine. But, are we the guinea pigs for your next winter's one? Jan, that's such a great question. And I actually don't know where they developed the vaccine for first, if it's for the Southern Hemisphere or the Northern Hemisphere. But I do know that it's predicted the year before. So I am going to guess that this year's flu vaccine is going to be totally revamped and redone, and we'll have to see. Now, I actually do want to really note that, unfortunately, Jan, I'm going to guess. I don't like to make guesses. I like to know the truth. But I'm going to guess that the vaccine was made before your flu season. And that's why we had some evidence that it wasn't going to be very effective in our flu season, because we knew from your flu season that the H3N2 virus that was circulating and causing such trouble was not in our vaccine. So we already knew going into our flu season that very likely this flu vaccine would not be effective here in the Northern Hemisphere. Okay, so back to Tamiflu. So I will just step back and say I was shocked would be the right word, right? I mean, shocked would be maybe even an understatement when I really looked at some of the evidence, the data that we have for the side effects of the Tamiflu. So let's look at something called the Cochrane Database. I'm going to spell that for you. Cochrane is Cochrane, Cochrane Database. Now, Cochrane, it's a scientific body that looks at, that reviews the medical literature, all the different articles and research papers on various topics. So they actually did in 2014 review Tamiflu and one other anti-flu medicine called Relenza. Now, what they looked at were some of the research papers, but they also looked at, and this is where I was a bit floored, they looked at some of the manufacturers' clinical study reports from trials that were submitted to the FDA, but the FDA comments, they looked at the manufacturers' clinical study reports and trials that they gave to the FDA and the FDA comments on those reports. So they reviewed that. Great. I'm glad they reviewed that. That's really important. But guess what? Those reports and the FDA comments were unpublished and confidential. And so the Cochrane review actually brought these to light. So that is a bit shocking to me. Oh, Danielle writes, Elisa, your mom delivered me and was my OB-GYN until she retired. So I do come from a family of physicians. My twin sister, Erica, is in New Jersey, and she is an integrative women's health expert, OB-GYN. And my mother was an OB-GYN. She's now retired now. My younger sister, my baby sister, is a clinical psychologist. So thanks, Danielle. I will definitely tell her that you say hi. Okay, so now back to Tamiflu. Well, so that's shocking, right? That for years, we as physicians were prescribing Tamiflu without our full knowledge about the side effects. And so let's look at what Cochrane revealed, right? So what they revealed was that, well, Tamiflu could be effective, maybe, but it only works if you take it within the first 48 hours of symptoms. I'm talking like a little scratchy throat, a little stuffy nose, like a little fuzzy head. You guys know that feeling. Right? We all know that feeling. We know that feeling when you're just starting to get sick and you're thinking, am I tired? Am I run down? Am I catching something? Okay, there goes one day, right? The next day, now you're a little achy, your nose is starting to run, you're sniffling, and you think, oh, I'm catching a cold. That's 2 days. Then the third day you wake up and you're like, whoa, I have a fever and I'm achy and I'm chilled. Well, most of us don't go to the doctor right away in the first 2 days of our symptoms, right? So it's only going to work if you go immediately, which you might if you had a friend or a family member who had the flu and you started getting sick. So that, but otherwise, no. Most of us don't present early enough for the Tamiflu to even have a chance to be effective. But if you did, get Tamiflu within the first 48 hours, there is a chance that it could reduce symptoms. Well, get this, right? It'll reduce your symptoms in healthy teenagers and healthy adults by maybe 17 to 25 hours. That's like a day, right? You might feel better, a day faster, which absolutely, I mean, that's great to feel better faster, but a day faster, is that worth it? Think about it. And think about it because I'm going to tell you some of the side effects, right? The other thing that's really interesting to know is that when they really looked at Tamiflu, I mean, why do we give Tamiflu, right? Knowing that the flu virus, influenza, for most people is going to be a mild to moderate symptom. And most people, the vast majority of health people, aren't going to have complications from it and severe reactions. So the reason we give Tamiflu is because we'd like to prevent the complications, right? We want to prevent hospitalizations from the flu. We want to prevent death from the flu. We want to prevent pneumonia and ear infections and sinus infections that require antibiotics, right? Because, oh, by the way, the influenza is a virus and antibiotics are going to do zero unless you have a bacterial complication. So Tamiflu, the evidence shows it doesn't prevent complications. It was not shown to reduce the number of hospitalizations, and it was really unclear whether it had any benefit on the bacterial complications like pneumonia and bronchitis and sinusitis and ear infections. Now, you weigh that with the fact that it's got really serious side effects. The most common side effects were nausea, vomiting, and headache. Now, I mean, that's not that serious to me, right? But if you're trading, getting the Tamiflu with the chance that maybe you'll have symptoms for less than a day, but it's making your nausea and your vomiting, your headache worse. Again, weigh the risks. I do feel as a pediatrician, I want to make sure that you are comfortable with whatever decisions you make. I don't make the decisions for my parents. I don't live with the decisions, right, with their children. So just want to provide information. So, but the most concerning thing, and I said in the beginning, I'm going to share with you what was really concerning to me about Tamiflu. The most concerning thing is really the evidence that Tamiflu can have serious psychiatric effects that were most commonly seen in children. Okay, I said that slowly because I want to emphasize that. The most common effects, psychiatric effects, were seen in kids. And, if you're shocked by this, right, give me, a sad face or an angry face, because this was shocking to me. And when I really dug into it, there in Japan, right, I see lots of shocked faces and sad faces. In Japan, there were reports of these kids, these young kids doing such odd things like jumping out of windows or walking in front of Big Mac trucks, and without really any other explanation. And so that to me is terrifying. And in fact, Japan has completely banned the use of Tamiflu in kids under 17. And yet here in the United States, we've approved Tamiflu in kids older than 2 weeks of age, right? So let's think about that. And this is literally, I want to quote this from the Cochrane review. I want to quote what they wrote, that some people using oseltamivir, which is Tamiflu, have had rare side effects of sudden confusion, delirium, hallucinations, unusual behavior, or self-injury. These symptoms have occurred most often in children. Anyone using oseltamivir should be watched closely for signs of confusion. Okay, so we need to pause, and if there's just one thing you share, with your family members and your friends, just let them know, really think twice about using the Tamiflu. I would urge you to just take a look at the Cochrane Database. You can read the article online. You can look up Cochrane reviews. Remember, Cochrane, Cochrane reviews. Look at the 2014 Tamiflu review. Because again, today, my Facebook Live, I want to share the facts. I want to share knowledge. I want to empower you guys to feel comfortable with your decisions. And not only that, I want to empower you guys to feel comfortable getting through the flu season naturally and healthily. And even if you get the flu and even if you get the cold, have some tools on hand to really get over illnesses more effectively, right? So again, give me a thumbs up if you're still here. I know that was like a big shock, to many of you, maybe not to all of you, right? But, this is where we need to really, spread the word and get more knowledge out there. So Now, let's talk about what we can do, right? Here are some of the facts that we already laid out. If you're just joining me, I'm a holistic pediatrician, board certified pediatrician, and pediatric functional medicine expert. I'm a mama. I have two amazing kids. They're 6.5 and 8. And I'm right there with you. I do this with you every day. I worry, are they going to get sick? Do they look a little glassy-eyed? How can I get their immune system stronger? How can I help them thrive? Right? So I'm right there with you. And I will tell you, all of the things that I recommend are exactly what I do for my family, for my kids and for my husband and for me, to keep us strong and healthy, and what I do when we're sick. Okay, so I don't recommend anything that I haven't tried and that I don't know really works. So first thing, if you haven't already, go to the pinned comment on my Facebook page. This is where, if you haven't shared this Facebook Live with your friends, tag a friend, share it to your page, share it to your family members, because now we're going to talk about, how can we keep our immune system strong, and what do we do if we have the flu? Or a flu-like illness. Okay, so first things first, if you haven't already, go to my pinned comments and download that free guide, my free guide to natural remedies to beating the flu. So you have that on hand. I'm going to go through as much of it as I can. Now, there are going to be parts of it that I don't go through, but that's why I wrote it down. I want you to have it as a reference. The other thing I want to make sure that you know is, on my blog site, I try to write articles as often as I can with all of this information to share with you. And so my website is called Healthy Kids, Happy Kids. That's www.healthykidshappykids.com. And I have articles that are much more in depth. So, definitely feel free to take a look at that and sign up for my newsletter. If you like this information, I love to keep sharing with you, as long as I know that it's providing value and that it's helping your kids and helping your families. So give me, can't download it. So I don't think, so Sarah writes she's having trouble downloading the guide. And Azadeh is saying she can't download it either. You know what? I'm not quite sure what's going on. I will try. And I really apologize. If you can't download it now, I'm gonna fix it. It's hard for me to fix it right now while I'm on Facebook Live with you, but I promise as soon as as this is over, I will do what I can to make it work. Okay, great. I see Shira has it. Kathy got it. 2 Kathys got it. Okay. All right. So again, it might be that you just have to wait until after to get it, but it's there for you guys. Okay. So the first thing that we want to do when we think about, boosting our immune system, I do have a blog post on the top ways to boost your child's immune system that goes a lot more in depth. So, take a look at that. But the first thing we want to do is think about prevention, right? Prevention is key. I mean, what would be better than preventing your child or you, from getting the flu in the first place, right? Nadine has it, Cody has it, great. Okay. If you guys want to learn tips on how to boost your child's immune system and, stay healthy, give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, let me know this is the direction you want to head in. And I'm going to tell you some things that are common sense, and I'm going to share with you some things that maybe you haven't thought about. Now, a lot of these things, if you follow my blog, you've seen these, I know. So some of it's going to be repetitious, but for anyone who's new to really thinking about, a holistic, integrated pediatric approach for your child and for your family, I just want to run through these things. Or if you're sharing this, with your partner who may not be on board yet, I say yet because I think that, once you start really living life in this way with a holistic, integrative approach to your child's health, that's the best way to be, the best way to go. You're going to see your child thriving even more than they are and really reaching their full health potential. And you're not going to want to go back to a purely conventional way, which is why, I'm so thrilled that I have so many practitioners and pediatricians and family medicine doctors who also follow me and contact me with questions and how can I learn more and how can I get trained. It is, yes, there are absolutely problems with the conventional medical world and the profession and the way young physicians are trained. But there's hope, right? I have friends and colleagues who are pediatricians who are really getting more and more open-minded and, looking at different approaches, referring to complementary and alternative providers and practitioners, and even pursuing additional training themselves. But this is where, I just want to urge you, as a, mama and a papa, to, work in partnership with your pediatrician, if you can, providing information and sharing. Trying to open their eyes. It's not your job to convert. Absolutely not, right? Your job is to be a mama and your job is to be a papa. But as you share, as you experience successes and things that work, maybe just plant those seeds, right? Maybe plant a little spark of interest, because I know I love when my family share with me things that they've read on their Facebook groups about different treatments that maybe that they might want to consider or try, and I can have that opportunity to do that research and look into that, or share with me things that have worked that I haven't thought of, because nobody has all the answers, and we do best for our kids if we keep an open mind and try to always learn, right? Always be a student. So let's get going with prevention. So what's the number one thing? You guys know this, right? You guys teach your kids this, but it's washing your hands, right? Washing frequently, but you got to make sure that your kids know how to wash their hands. They have to wash their hands the right way. And I remember in residency, and some kids I know in my kids' school, one class actually did have this little scientific experiment. But you can get this invisible like germ gel, right? It just has this invisible stuff that gets on your hands. You let it dry, and then you have the kids go to the bathroom and wash their hands. I did this in residency. So you just go and wash your hands, and you come back and you shine this light, this blue light on it, and you see what stuff is actually still on your hands, and it's shocking. Really you want to scrub and try to get under your fingernails, in between your fingers, right? Any place that those germs are just trying to kind of grow and fester and populate, right? So just make sure that your kids are washing your hands the right way, not just doing a cursory kind of under the sink and then they're done, right? So thorough hand washing. Make sure you also practice thorough hand washing yourselves, right? Like I know you all are doing. And then the next thing that I do is nasal irrigation. What does that mean, right? In many cultures, and in Ayurvedic culture, using a neti pot is part of the daily hygiene routine, just like brushing your teeth is, right? And so nasal irrigation is really important for prevention too. Why is that? Because when a cold or a flu virus starts to invade, when you get exposed, what it will do is try to multiply in your nasal passages. And usually that's going to be, for about 12 or 24 hours of multiplication of those viruses before you start to feel any symptoms, maybe even up to 48 hours, right? Kelly wrote, teach your kids to turn the faucet off with the back of their hands or elbow. Yes, we do that, right? You turn it off, push it down or turn it. Sometimes the knobs are a little harder to do, but even, in their school bathroom, if the doors are open and usually they're push handles, just with your elbow or with a paper towel. Okay. Oh, Peter's here. So Peter's my husband. You see, he wrote the link guide to the natural remedies to beat the flu. So thanks, Peter. he's off with my kids. Okay, so nasal irrigation. So we want to flush out those germs. Just think about it as flushing out those germs before they have a chance to grow in number enough to make you feel sick. There's different ways you can do that. I mentioned a neti pot, which looks like, if you haven't seen it, looks like a magic genie lantern that you fill up, with saline. You tip over the sink, put one tip into one nostril, and you let the saline flow from one nostril out, through your sinuses, out the other nostril. It feels great. For younger kids, it's a little harder to learn. Some kids, don't necessarily like it. So there's different ways to irrigate your nose. Hey, Alicia. So there are different ways to do that. So you can do something called a NeilMed, NeilMed sinus rinse. I just want to let you know, I have no, affiliation with any products or supplements or things I'm recommending, these are things that I know because that work because I've used them with my kids, and also there's good research too for many of these things that they are very effective. So the NeoMed sinus rinse is easier for kids to learn. They even have a kids version that you just have to lean over the sink and not have to tip over. And I just use, this is my favorite, as you guys know, something called Xclear nasal spray. It has saline in it. It's got a little xylitol and some grapefruit seed extract. Xylitol has its own antimicrobial properties. Same thing with grapefruit seed extract. Xylitol is amazing. It's been found to reduce the risk of cavities and ear infections when used as a toothpaste or a chewing gum. Okay. Hey, Michelle, it's so great to see you. Michelle's a fellow pediatrician. Remember, I was talking about how awesome it is to have these great pediatricians coming on board and in the kind of sort of integrative holistic pediatric movement. Oh, and Sheila, I see Sheila is here. So Sheila Kilbane, awesome holistic pediatrician in North Carolina. So again, so glad to see everyone here. This is so amazing. So with the Xclear, what I usually do is I recommend, just squirting into each nostril, letting it kind of sit there, wash things out, and then blowing, right? You want to blow that stuff out at the end of every day. Just put it next to your toothbrush so that you brush your teeth, squirt some Xclear up your nose, irrigate. And then also what I say, do it after exposures. Hey, Catherine. So, and Colleen, right? We work with Sheila. Awesome. So the Xlear nasal spray. Let's see. Mindy, can you write the bottle up? Can you hold the bottle up again? So, after the show, I'll write down a list of all of these supplements, just so you don't have to kind of write frantically right now. But I'll hold it up again. It's called Xclear, Xlear. And then it comes in, this is like a spray mist, right, to go up your nose. It also comes in saline or Xclear drops for your little babies, where you could just put a couple of drops in, let it sit there, and then suck out with a bulb syringe or the awesome Nose Frida, if you've used that. Nose Frida was after my kids' time, so I never used it, but it's a great invention. Yvonne is here from Chicago, and Azadeh said your kids are not great at blowing your nose. Would Xclear not be a good option? No, it's totally fine. It's still great. You can just squirt it up, and then if they're leaning forward, some of it's going to drip out, so that's fine. And the other thing that you can do, there's a question, and I'm sorry that it's moving a little bit fast right now, but there was a question before, can you just use saline spray? Absolutely. You can just use normal saline, a saline spray. The key is that you're irrigating, you're flushing out the germs. You can, the reason why I use Xclear is because I like that it has a little xylitol and it has a little grapefruit seed extract. I will say that some kids will say that it stings a little bit. And the saline isn't going to necessarily have that stinging feeling. I don't find that it stings, but anyhow, that's what I would I use for the home, but in a pinch, I'll use regular saline. So again, at the end of every day, and then after, quote, exposures, right? So what do I mean by exposure? After a birthday party, after a plane ride, after a gymnastics class where your kids are touching the bars and the mats and just having their hands everywhere, I irrigate them too. Right, because that's when, of course, your kids are going to be in that situation and not necessarily washing their hands before they touch their face or brush their hair, out of their eyes. And so you just want to flush out as soon as you can. Okay. Kristen wrote, Nose Frida is the best invention ever. Yes, it is. Now, Denise, Xclear, Shira answered your question. Xclear is available, everywhere. If you have Amazon, you can get it. If you're a Prime member, I love Amazon Prime, you might even be able to get it the same day, right? Okay. Other principles for prevention and staying healthy through the wintertime. I talk about diet and lifestyle all the time because diet and lifestyle are equally important, maybe even more important, to any supplement that I can tell you to take. And we have to take this seriously. We can't just think, we don't want to replace, supplements and, different vitamins for medicines, right? It's not just, we want to get out of that sort of conventional model where everything needs a pill or a vitamin. We really want to let our body do what it's trying to do and give it the opportunity to grow and thrive and be healthy and do everything that it's trying to do, right? So diet and lifestyle, those are the cornerstones of prevention, staying healthy, and also recovering faster. So what are some things? You all know to eat a rainbow, but why is that so important? Because each of those phytonutrients, each of those colors that provide different vitamins and minerals has a different benefit for our immune system. Our most important antioxidants, vitamin A and vitamin C and vitamin E, they're going to be found in all those colorful fruits and vegetables. Vitamin E is going to be found in those healthy fats like nuts and seeds. So trying to get as much of a variety as possible and really, getting that rainbow in. I think you can probably guess what I'm going to say as the next thing. The next thing is to reduce sugar intake, right? So reducing sugar intake. You guys know that. I mean, I'm sure if you're listening here today, you're not giving your kids a chocolate bar or a cookie every day. And if you are, okay, I'm not going to, make you put any guilt or blame on you, but just be educated that the sugar, right, this refined sugar, white sugar is, I'm not talking about the sugar in fruits, I'm talking about refined sugar. Sugar, so this is another fact that we know from the data, from research, that when you consume sugar, within about 20 minutes, your white blood cells, a certain cell called a macrophage, has a significant reduction in its ability to fight infections and basically eat the viruses and bacteria, all the germs that you and your kids are getting exposed to, right? So within 20 minutes. So, I mean, no wonder after a birthday party with ice cream and jelly beans and cake, that the next day, sure enough, your kids wake up with that snotty runny nose and a little fever, right? Yes, Shay wrote, I love the term, you can't out supplement a bad diet. Yes. So, give me some hearts, give me a smiley face, if just to make sure that, you guys have heard that loud and clear. Diet and lifestyle are key. So eat a rainbow, reduce refined sugar, eat fermented foods. Fermented foods. Now, yes, for some, it's an acquired taste. I also want to know, give me a thumbs up if your kids are eating fermented foods, if fermented foods are a regular part of your diet, because that is awesome. I mean, things like sauerkraut and miso and kombucha and kefir, kimchi. Now, kimchi, so I'm Korean American, and kimchi is a staple, at our house, growing up, and we didn't have a dinner without kimchi on the table. And kimchi was found in vitro, meaning in the laboratory, to kill the H1N1 flu virus. So who's shocked about that, right? Give me a shocked face if you didn't know that. I was shocked when I heard that, right? So kimchi, and I'm sure it's not just kimchi, but other fermented foods, try to get into your kids' diet in any way you can. A spoonful of kraut juice is going to, or, that raw apple cider vinegar mixed in water is going to go so much further than any probiotic supplement that you give them. But why are fermented foods so important? It's because of the probiotics, right? We know that certain probiotics have huge benefits in reducing the rates of cold and flu over the winter and boosting our kids' immune system. Another principle, stay hydrated. I mean, kids, adults, we are chronically dehydrated. Who thinks they drink enough water? Or I should ask, who thinks they don't drink enough water? Who thinks their kids don't drink enough water? Give me a sad face if you don't think you or your kids drink enough water. I know, that's one of my New Year's resolutions, if you saw that. One of my New Year's resolutions, my goal is to get a minimum of 60 to 80 ounces of water or fluid in every day. Now, it doesn't have to be water. It can be bone broth. It can be herbal teas. I love that, right? But we want fluid. We need to stay hydrated. And so, staying hydrated is key to a healthy immune system. What's a general rule of thumb? A general rule of thumb is for, to take your weight in pounds, your child's weight in pounds, or your weight in pounds, divide it in half, and that's about how many ounces that your child needs to drink in ounces of water. Now, that's going to be on a pretty average day. If they're out in the sun playing soccer all day, they need more than that, right? So if you have a child who's Sarah, I just saw your question. I hope I just answered that. So if you have a child who weighs 60 pounds, then they should be drinking about 30 ounces of water in a day. And one thing I do is I will take their water bottle. Most kids have a water bottle they take to school, and I'll have a water bottle, or I'll have parents and kids bring out their water bottle. We look at exactly how many ounces it is. So if their water bottle is 12 ounces, I'll have them do a little challenge, right? For a weekend, they are only going to drink water out of that water bottle. So they know exactly how much they're consuming. And they're going to drink, let's say you have a child who should be drinking about 30 ounces a day. They need to drink at least about 3 of those bottles in a day. And they're going to see after 2-3 days how they feel. Notice what their skin feels like, what their energy feels like, what their mood feels like, how they're sleeping, how they're pooping, right? How they're focusing and concentrating. So many benefits to water. Yes, Lene is saying that she's drinking 80 ounces of water per day, working on 100. When I drink 100, the day goes so much better, right? Okay, so staying hydrated, drinking your bone broth. Bone broth, by the way, has lots of different benefits that are therapeutic and medicinal, boosting the immune system, thinning mucus. Next lifestyle modification or prevention key is getting enough sleep. Just like I would say virtually all of us are not hydrated enough, virtually all of us are sleep deprived. Right? If you can tell me that you've gotten enough sleep consistently in the last week, or you feel like your child has, I would love to know your trick. There's always, different excuses that prevent our kids from getting to bed on time, right? And for us, I totally get it. Like I said, I'm a mama to 2 kids. When they go to bed, and we're trying for a 7:30, 8 o'clock bedtime, but sometimes it's 8:30. And then by the time I come out of the room and settle down, it's 9 o'clock and I want to get to bed soon. But that's your downtime, right? Who knows that feeling? Give me a heart if you know that feeling. Who knows that feeling when your kids are asleep and you're late and it's tired and you're thinking, I should go to sleep, but I want my downtime. I want quiet. I want to watch a show. I want to sit with my partner. I want to read a book, right? And then before you know, it's 11 o'clock, it's midnight, and then you have to wake up at 6 o'clock, right? To help get the lunches packed and get your kids off to school. So focus on sleep, prioritize sleep, make it essential. As I said in the very beginning, sleep heals, right? There's nothing more important than sleep for prevention and also when you're sick. Also get moderate exercise and outdoor time, fresh air. There are days when I'm in the office all day long and I realize I did not get some fresh air. And if I can just at lunchtime step outside, get a little fresh air, quick little walk around, the day goes so much more smoothly. All right, so I said lifestyle and diet trump everything, but then there's some supplements that I think are very important as well. So I've seen a lot of hearts because I know that you mamas and papas know exactly what I'm talking about by not getting enough sleep. So tonight, let's make a pact. Okay, let's make a deal. I'll make a deal with you. You make a deal with me. We're going to get to sleep on time to get at least, I'm going to say 7 for myself, but really it should be 8. Okay, so let's make a deal that we're going to get enough sleep. And okay, so supplements. So the supplements that I think are really important, I'm just going to give you a few, and you can look again, check out my Healthy Kids, Happy Kids website. I have a blog post, an article on the top ways to boost your child's immune system, where I list out some of the supplements, other supplements to boost your immune system. But the most important ones to focus on, fish oils, right? Our omega-3 essential fatty acids, very important. Boost the immune system, provide good anti-inflammatory support, provide great neurologic support. There are a variety of different ones out there. Just make sure that you use one that is tested for impurities like heavy metals and other chemicals. The brands, I'll tell you some brands that I trust and I find reputable. Nordic Naturals is very easy to find, and I love, they're very pure. They're right here down, they're maybe about an hour south of me. But they're a great company. Designs for Health. I love their fish oils. They have a smoothie. It's a swirl that's called a Lemondrop Smoothie that tastes like lemon, like a lemon custard. They just came out with new flavors. We just tried their lime, which my husband and kids love. I'm excited to try their mango. So there are different ways to make it more palatable. I love the taste of fish oil, but some are a little bit more particular. Wendy just joined. Hey, Wendy, so glad to have you here. Okay, other fish oil brands, Metagenics, I think is a very good one as well. So fish oil, really important. If you're in Australia, and actually even here in the States, but I know I have a lot of people who follow me from Australia and New Zealand. Hey, Brandy. So in Australia, there's a company, a manufacturer called BioCeuticals, which I think is a fantastic supplement company. And they have one, I didn't bring it here, I was going to try to show it, but it's called Ultra Omega for Kids, I believe. They're these chewable little sort of grape cranberry flavored. I mean, my kids can't get enough of them. I mean, that's their favorite one right now. And every morning they remind me, can I have that fish oil? They did love the Lemondrop Smoothie from Designs for Health, but I mean, I'm telling you, this chewable one by BioCeuticals is just, it's delicious. All right, so that's fish oil. Probiotics. I'm getting some comments from Marissa, Alicia. Check out the doTERRA IQ Omega. I'll definitely check that out. Again, I love hearing from families on what's working for them and which ones they love. So probiotics. Remember I said before, and if you're just catching me here, you don't remember, but I'm going to say it again, that there are particular probiotic strains that have been shown to reduce the frequency and the severity of fevers and colds and flus over the wintertime. And so there are some different supplements that probiotics that have those strains in them. I'm very particular about my probiotics. I'm very particular about which probiotics I recommend. My favorite probiotic company, well, I have several, is Xlear Labs, Klaire, Xlear Labs. But I do really like the Metagenics brand and the Ortho Molecular Products brand. I'm going to show you though, Metagenics, well, I didn't bring it with me, but Metagenics has the two strains that I was talking about, two probiotic strains that have been shown to reduce cold and flu and fever in the wintertime, in their probiotic supplement called Ultra Flora Synergy powder. Okay, that comes in a powder. It also comes in a capsule called Ultra Flora Balance, and it comes in these delicious grape flavored chewables called Ultra Flora Children's Chewable Probiotic. So, you know, as I said, are the brands you're listing on the pinned post. So not on the pinned post, but at the end, I'm going to write a list in the description of the video of all the resources I mentioned. So again, don't worry about writing these down. I'm going to have those there for you. And also, I do write them in a lot of my articles on the Healthy Kids Happy Kids website. So probiotics, fish oil, vitamin D. Vitamin D, that's probably one of the supplements that I'm the most sort of consistent with. And when I say consistent, I'm going to tell you, you know, I get it, right? You know, I'll recommend supplement plans and it's hard to get to them every day. That's okay. You know, every bit matters and it counts. So if you've skipped a few days, don't worry about it. But vitamin D is one of the ones I'm super consistent with because vitamin D is so tied to our immune health. And in fact, you know, there is thought that in the wintertime, one of the reasons why we're more susceptible to getting ill, it's not that there's more germs around, it's that our vitamin D levels have decreased because we're not, the sun is not sufficient to convert vitamin D through our skin. So vitamin D is really important. I do recommend, if you can, having your physician check vitamin D levels because it can be kind of shocking how much vitamin D we need to get them to get our vitamin D levels adequate. So vitamin D levels, I like during the wintertime to see levels in our kids between 60 and 80. Okay, so don't just take your word for the doctor that it's quote normal, get the number. The next supplement I did bring with you because I want you to see it, it's called ImmuMax. It's by Ortho Molecular Products. They have a kids line called Springboard. And ImmuMax, it has 3 different ingredients. It has echinacea, vitamin C, and propolis. And it actually has some rose hips in it. So the reason why I'm telling you this, remember I said, I want this Facebook Live to be about the evidence and about facts. And I'm going to give you the evidence whenever I can. So ImmuMax has been found during the 12-week period when given over the wintertime to reduce the number of colds, reduce the number of sick days and days missed from school. Who doesn't like that, right? Reduce the duration of illness, reduce the number of unscheduled sick doctor visits, and reduce nighttime cough. Love it, right? I love it when there's research behind this as well. And I know that's definitely one of the supplements I give to my kids. Right. So let's just quick recap if you're just joining me. Prevention is key. We're going to prevent our kids and boost our kids' immune systems by washing their hands frequently, using a nasal irrigation every night and after exposures, eating that rainbow of fruits and vegetables, staying hydrated, eating fermented foods, getting enough sleep. doing exercise and getting fresh air, and taking some key supplements like fish oils, probiotics, vitamin D, and consider this Immu Max. Okay, so that's about supporting the immune system. But now you're thinking, well, what if I have the flu, or what if my kid gets the flu? What can I do that's safe and natural and gentle, but effective, right? Because I don't want to tell you to do something if it's not going to work, right? But, and remember, in conventional medicine, like I said, codeine is off the table for kids for their cough. Sudafed is out. Tylenol might make your kids be sicker for longer because it doesn't do anything to help the infection, but it can it can increase the duration of your illness. So what do we do, right? There's lots of things we can do. And again, check out my blog post, because I do have a blog post on the natural pediatrician approved natural remedies for the flu. But this is where, if you haven't downloaded the guide to natural remedies to beat the flu from the pinned comment on the Facebook Live post, or that my husband Peter posted so nicely during the show, go ahead and do that now, or just do it at any time and use it as a resource and a reference. Okay, so when your kids are sick, what do we do? Well, I'm going to talk about lifestyle and diet again, right? Because again, we don't want to just, throw supplements at our kids. We want to make sure that we're really doing everything we can to make whatever supplements or herbals or natural medicines we give be more effective. Okay, so tell me, who's here with me still? I know we're going long. It's a ton of information. I promise, I want to make this worth your while. So if you want me to keep going, give me a thumbs up and give me a heart, because I'm so glad you guys have stuck through this Facebook Live with me, and I'm hoping that I'm giving you the information that you want tonight. Okay, so great. Seeing a lot of hearts, a lot of likes. Really glad. I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Dive right in, right, to what we can do when our kids are sick. And just note, I'm going to remind you guys that during the winter time, right now, during the flu season, it's not just about the flu, it's about which is caused by the influenza virus, but it's about a lot of other influenza-like illnesses that are caused by other non-influenza viruses, and also upper respiratory infections like the cold, right? I mean, the common cold, lots of different viruses are circulating that are causing cold symptoms. So when your kids are sick and when you're sick, biggest thing is going to be rest. Rest, 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 sleep, 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 right? Let your kids be couch potatoes. I don't care if they lay on the couch all day long and just want to read a book or listen to some music. In fact, I mean, honestly, if they want to, watch a show or watch a couple of movies and just lay low, that's fine. When kids are sick, I do not want them running around, jumping on the trampoline, acting, quote, normal, right? Emily wrote, so I just want to answer this question because this is important. How do we know what we have? Well, I want to let you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you have the influenza or an influenza-like illness that's caused by a different virus, because all of these are going to help. Whatever you have, these things will help you and your child hopefully beat the flu more quickly and effectively. Okay. The reason I check kids for the flu when they come to the office, and I checked Bodhi, my son, when he had it over winter break, is because more for my information, also so that families can let their friends and schools know. But also, for instance, Bodhi, he had influenza A. He got over it in a couple of days, and I'm going to guess it's the influenza A H3N2 subtype that he got, because that's what's circulating right now in California and in most of the states. So I feel a little more comfortable that, he's not going to get that flu virus again, right? Okay, so resting is really key. A lot of parents will call me and be worried that their kids aren't, quote, acting normal. I don't want your kids acting normal. I do want them making good eye contact. I do want them answering your questions appropriately. I do want them knowing who you are, where they are. I don't want them confused, but I want them sluggish, right? When your body rests and slows down, it's allowing their immune system to do what it's trying to do, which is help them get better and heal. Hydration is absolutely important. And when you have a fever, hydration is even more important because you're losing even more water from your skin and from your breath, when you have a fever. and easy to digest foods. Now, when your kids are sick, just like when you're sick, you may have zero appetite. You may not want to eat at all, and that's okay. I don't mind that. Don't worry about food. Worry about hydration. Watch their pee. Make sure they're peeing at least once every 6 to 8 hours, even if they're not peeing even if they're not peeing as much. And then when we get to the different natural medicines that can be helpful, I'm going to go through some of the ones that I know have worked for my kids, that I use for my kids and myself, and have some evidence behind them, right? Because again, if you are sharing this with friends and family members who, may not totally be on board with this holistic pediatric approach, I want them to know that I, as a board certified pediatrician, am sharing information with you that does have evidence behind it. Okay, so the very first thing I do is reach for the oscillococcinum. You will see oscillococcinum. You guys see this at CVS, Target, Whole Foods. You're going to see this on every checkout stand during the flu season. Why is that? Now, this happens to be a box of 6, but in the box you'll see a little packet like this with 3 little tubes, and each tube is a vial of oscillococcinum. I know it's hard to say, but oscillococcinum, there are studies showing that when you take oscillococcinum at the very start of a flu, it can significantly reduce the duration of your symptoms and also the severity of your symptoms greater than placebo. Okay, by 24 to 48 hours more than placebo. And those results are statistically significant. In fact, a Cochrane review did show that as well. Now, again, it's best if you start this immediately at the onset of symptoms. Oscillococcinum, these homeopathic medicines, the way they are manufactured and sequentially diluted are often my go-tos for young kids and for women who are nursing. And in pregnancy, Alicia writes, is it safe in pregnancy? Safe for pregnancy, yes, that's the best part. Again, I want to just make sure that you guys, become informed. Check for allergies if your kids have allergies. Check with your healthcare practitioner before you start using anything. But I feel confident that if you use the right manufacturer, and I only buy my homeopathics from Boiron. Boiron is, the oldest homeopathic manufacturer in the world, based out of France, and they have some of the highest quality assurance standards to make absolutely sure that what they say is in the bottle is in the bottle. Okay, so oscillococcinum, the way you're going to do it at the very start of symptoms, you're going to open up this cap, pop everything into your mouth. There's tiny little sprinkles that are sugar sprinkles that taste delicious, and you suck on them. And do that 3 times over a 24-hour period. Works great. It can also work to prevent the flu as well. So for flu prevention, I'll take 1 vial once a week, which you can do, and your children can do. The dose is the same, whether you're a child or an adult. It's the entire vial. Doesn't matter how big or little you are, or how old or young you are. For babies, I'll put the vials, and so you can do half a vial for a little baby in a little water and just give it to them with a bottle or a spoon. You can do it that way too. Okay. So that's oscillococcinum. The next thing that I do that has some good evidence behind it is something called Xlear. So Xlear is by Integrative Therapeutics. You can find this over the counter as well. It's called UMCA, UMCKA, UMCA Cold Care Syrup. Now, UMCA and Xlear, it has an African bush herb. It's called Pelargonium sidoides. And Pelargonium sidoides in studies have been shown to significantly shorten the duration and severity of colds and flus, increase your white blood cells' ability to kill bacteria and viruses, and also help clear mucus from the lungs. So it's really great for upper respiratory infections, colds, which are colds and flus. I want to back up with the oscillococcinum. I mentioned that you can use it for prevention of the flu once a week, but I also do it after, quote, exposures. Remember I said that I use the Xlear nasal spray after exposures? Well, after a birthday party, I certainly have given my kids a vial of oscillococcinum. if they go to school and I drop them off and I see that their desk mate is sneezing with like a really snotty nose or a cough, I give them oscillococcinum at the end of the day. I just came back from a conference on a plane and I took oscillococcinum while I was on the plane, right? So you can do that after exposures too. The next herbal medicine that I use is elderberry. Now, I don't have a sample of elderberry syrup with me right here. I really like a syrup by Integrative Therapeutics. It's their elderberry syrup. But you know what? Elderberry syrup is really easy to find. It's easy to make on your own. There are all sorts of amazing, mama blogs and recipes online that you can find. Christina just joined. Hey, Christina. So elderberry syrup, I have to fully admit, I am not a DIY kind of a person. I wish I were, but if I were, I'm sure I'd be making my own elderberry syrup because it's not that hard. So you can look up recipes online. But elderberry, I love elderberry. Elderberry in vitro, so in little petri dishes. Remember I said that kimchi was shown to kill H1N1? Same thing with elderberry. Elderberry has been shown to have anti-flu properties, immune boosting properties, and support of the upper respiratory system. So support of mucus production and improving coughs. Gina writes, what about, I think you're asking, Gina, am I right that it can you take echinacea every day? So echinacea, there are some cautions with echinacea if you have an autoimmune disease. So if you have an autoimmune illness, I would want to make sure that you checked in, with your healthcare provider. But in general, for this period of time with, during the cold and flu season, this 12-week period, for the most part, for most people, it's fine to take echinacea daily. I hope that answers your question. So that's what did we go over so far for flu treatment? If you're just joining us, natural remedies for the flu, lifestyle modifications with rest and sleep, hydration, focusing on easy to digest foods. In terms of homeopathics, oscillococcinum, 1 vial, 3 times over a 24-hour period. We have herbal Xlear or cold care syrup, which is Pelargonium pseudoides, and we have elderberry syrup. Essential oils. I know many of you right now use essential oils. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a heart or a smiley face. Tell me if you use essential oils or if you want to learn how to use essential oils, because I have a lot of families who are using essential oils right now. I love essential oils, not because they smell great. I mean, they do smell great, but because they have such therapeutic value. And, as I mentioned before, I don't have a stake in any of these supplement companies. Again, what I recommend is what I use for my own kids and for my family, and I know works because I've used them, when we're sick or when we're trying to stay healthy. I've seen a lot of hearts, a lot of thumbs up, with using essential oils. So essential oils are great. And how I like to pair essential oils? I like to pair essential oils with acupressure points. There are some really great acupressure points. I love acupressure because when you're sitting, hugging your child, trying to help them get to sleep, and you're snuggling in bed or on the couch, what a great way to hug them and snuggle with them, but also massage these therapeutic points that will help them to get better faster, and use essential oils to drive that therapeutic benefit even deeper. Now, essential oils you can use in a variety of ways. You can use them topically, as I mentioned, in massaging into acupressure points, or just massaging as a chest rub. If they're congested, you can diffuse them, you can put them in the bath. For little kids, you always want to make sure that you dilute the essential oil in a carrier oil like jojoba oil or coconut oil. For little kids under 3 months of age, I usually don't recommend using essential oils very close to them. There have been some studies looking at little infants with putting like eucalyptus right under the nose, and it can slow down their breathing rates. But otherwise, when my kids were babies, I diffused essential oils all the time. So the essential oils that I use when kids are sick. Elizabeth Van Buren is a essential oil manufacturer down here in Northern California, well, by me and in the San Francisco Bay Area. And they have a cold and flu blend, and they also have an immune blend. I love Elizabeth Van Buren because they run all of their essential oils through a gas chromatographer, so you know you're getting the essential oils and the therapeutic properties that you want to have. The other thing too is the other two brands that I think are great are doTERRA. I know a lot of you guys here are using doTERRA, and Young Living. I think they're both great brands. So doTERRA I actually have right here with me. Their kind of immune blend is called On Guard, which is very similar to Young Living, the Thieves Oil, and the Elizabeth Van Buren Immune Blend. So these are combinations of essential oils that are designed to boost the immune system, help with mucus and upper respiratory infection, and different infections. Okay, so how do I use it? So if my child is about to get sick, one of the first points I'll use is large intestine 4. Now you can look up right now on WikiHow, large intestine 4 acupressure point, but I'm going to show you. So your large intestine 4 acupressure point is right here. Okay, it's the point between your thumb and your index finger, that web space. And it's this web space right here. It can be a little tender, a little sore. And so you want to, when you do acupressure, you can just hold the point and put pressure on that point. You can massage, right? But you want to be firm yet loving. It might be a little uncomfortable. The points that we need the most when we're sick are typically the ones that are the most tender. But massage and hold. And I said I use essential oils, right? So then what I will do is I will take a little bit of my essential oil. Now, again, for the little ones, you're going to dilute them. Mix it with a little, olive oil or coconut oil, whatever you have at home. But just for the sake of demonstration, pretend this is diluted. Okay, and I just put a little oil, on my fingertip, and I just massage that point for as long as my child will let me. And then I move to the other point, right? So this is something you can do at home easily. All right, so there you have it. We have our natural remedies for when you get the flu or flu-like illness. Remember, I said it doesn't matter if you're actually diagnosed with the influenza or you don't have the influenza, but you feel like you have the flu or a cold, you can use any of these. So I really hope this was helpful for you. Again, to reiterate, rest, sleep. I know some of you are sick right now and your families are sick. So I'm hoping this will help you feel better faster. Using the oscillococcinum, using the cold care syrup or the Xclear, elderberry syrup, essential oils, and acupressure points. These are all tools that you can use when your kids are sick with the flu or flu-like illness. And in fact, these are tools that you can use. So Lisa wrote, any tips for the stomach flu? Absolutely. This is what I want to bring to you guys and bring to the world. And so I have been working diligently, working like crazy to try to get this course, this online course out to you that I promised you to come out in January, and it will. It's my everyday holistic pediatrics course. So I'm seeing a lot of hearts, seeing a lot of smiles. I'm hoping that you like this information. Give me a heart, give me a thumbs up if you are interested in learning more about how to use natural medicines for your child when they're sick with whatever they have. Because my everyday holistic pediatrics course, what I'm going to do is, what I'm working on is teaching you how to use lifestyle, diet, supplements, herbal medicines, homeopathy, essential oils, and acupressure points for your child's most common conditions like colds and flus. We're going to go much more in depth into cold and flu and fever, coughs, vomiting and diarrhea, earaches, and more. So if you're interested, be sure that you've signed up for my Healthy Kids, Happy Kids newsletter at www.healthykidshappykids.com, because I'll be putting in the newsletter, also on Facebook, of course, but I'm going to be putting in the newsletter exactly when the course is coming out. So be on the lookout for that too. I do, before we end, I want to also share with you, there may be times when you're thinking, when do I need to go see the doctor? When should I bring my kid? I'm using these natural medicines. Is there a time that I should be worried and take my kids to the doctor? And there might be, right? So I want to share with you, as a pediatrician, when do I want to see your kids? When should you go to see your doctor? When should you go to the ER even? And this is going to be if we're worried that your child might have a complication from the flu. So the biggest signs to look for when you have the flu, the fever can last, I've seen fevers last up to 7 days with the flu, but I want to see your child if they've had a fever for more than 4 or 5 days. Okay, just it might be fine, but it could be a sign that perhaps there's a super infection, a bacteria that's come in, complicated the picture, and that I want to know about it. Check their ears, listen to their lungs. If your child starts to get better and you're thinking, oh my gosh, they're improving, this is working, and then all of a sudden you see they get a high fever again, or they start to slide back and they crash again, that's a sign that perhaps, again, that there is this bacterial complication going on. So I want to see your kids then. If they're dehydrated, they haven't had any urine in over 6 to 8 hours, I want you to call the doctor. If they have a weird rash, it could be totally normal, but I want you to call the doctor. If they're acting confused, not answering questions appropriately, difficult to wake up, that's another sign to call the doctor. Okay, so these are signs. I just in my course I'm going to teach you not just how to use natural medicines, but also when you want to use call the doctor, because sometimes we may need the doctor's help, and sometimes we may need antibiotics. There's a time and a place for everything. Like I said in the very beginning of this Facebook Live, it's never either or. So, and I'll tell you the signs to know when your kids might need antibiotics, and also more importantly, if your kid does need antibiotics, what we can do to protect their gut and protect their immune systems and get them stronger and thriving so that they're protected for the next time around. Okay, so final thing, if you have not joined the Thriving Child Community private Facebook group, I know so many of you listening are on the Thriving Child Community Facebook group. And I started this group as just a closed group during my 2 Thriving Child Summits to discuss the summit interviews. If you don't know what the Thriving Child Summit is, it's amazing. I did it in 2016, 2017, brought together almost 80, I think almost 90 experts in children's health and wellness and mind-body medicine and interviewed them to bring information to you around the world. And so I started that group, but the group was so supportive and collaborative that I decided to keep it. And now it's this amazing, literally worldwide community of parents and grandparents and practitioners who are dedicated to helping their kids thrive naturally, body, mind, and spirit. I mean, the whole thing. So I, try to pop in there. I don't pop in there as nearly as I'd like to, just because of the time, and it is the winter season in a pediatric office. But the other mamas and papas and practitioners are amazing resources. So if you want to, be part of a community, find that community, even if you don't have one, physically, but, find a virtual community, definitely join it. I'm going to put that link in the Facebook video description as well. Okay, so I'm just going to run through here quickly and see if there's any questions I haven't answered, but thank you guys so much for being here today. I know you've been with me for a long time now. I'm so grateful that you've stuck in there with me. I hope that I was able to help you separate some fact from fear, get you some evidence to help you feel comfortable getting through the flu season naturally, and not give into the panic right now. Okay, so again, thank you so much for being here with me, and I am really looking forward to continuing to keep in touch, continuing to do these Facebook Lives. If you enjoy these Facebook Lives, just give me another little heart, because I love doing them, but I want to make sure that's something that's going to bring value to you. So you can absolutely tell me if you'd like me to do it again and what topics you'd like me to share as well. Okay, so again, thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening or afternoon or morning, whatever time it is in your time zone. And I will see you guys soon. All right, take care.